So a couple years ago, I got lucky enough to land a job working on the set of Transformers 3: Dark Side of the Moon. It was a really fun experience, and I was looking back through my old diary about how it went, and it got me thinking, it got me really introspective. So I thought I'd share that with you guys today. And what better place to share some deep introspective thoughts than on a car ride to Massanutten, Virginia. Yeah, I'm going down there to hang out with my family, so I thought I'd take you guys along and let you guys enjoy the sights while I read you a page from my private diary. Hope you guys enjoy. Excerpts from the Diary of Restless Ryan, October 2010. I can't believe it. I spent all this time worrying about work, and my dream job just fell into my lap. Earlier this week, I got an email from Paramount asking me to be a production assistant for Transformers 3. I dropped everything immediately and got there a half an hour ahead of time, speeding through downtown traffic where I'd received a $400 ticket the week prior. I didn't care. I had to be there on set. God, was it worth it. The Mall of Washington had been turned into a giant soundstage. Enormous spherical lights turned night into day. Prop cars primed with explosives littered the streets. Our meals were catered by 5-star restaurants, with dessert courtesy of a Georgetown cupcake truck. Hundreds of anxious fans waited behind roped-off lines that I could cross with impunity. I felt like a star. Now, don't be confused. I spent most of my time standing on the National Mall in the cold, with the wind howling against my back. And I wasn't sitting behind cameras or meeting stars. I was directing crowds, but I was still proud to be there. At one point, we were asked to move an enormous group of onlookers out of the way for a shot, and I was so jacked with adrenaline at being there, I don't know what happened. I just took charge. I chanted and danced and smiled and laughed, and minutes later, a huge crowd of at least 500 cold, sleep-deprived strangers not only cooperatively moved, but became enamored with me. Many of the other PAs got to know me pretty well after that, too. At one point, one of my coworkers confided in me how afraid they were that I would be moved away, doubting their ability to direct the screaming masses. "They love you," she said. The more important crew, the ones that had been flown in from California, noticed as well. One of the managers pulled me to the side a couple of times to inform me of upcoming shots and actors' locations. A few times I was introduced to producers and investors, though I'm embarrassed to admit I knew none of their names. Eventually, I was moved from the mall to a hidden side street near National Archives where I blocked off the set. I was only there an hour when Shia LaBeouf walked past me, completely unattended. I guess to go on a walk. I mean, he could have gone anywhere, but I like to think they sent him that way because someone told him I was a good guy. When I was moved back, members of the crowd were actually concerned with my disappearance. Some had gone looking for me. "Where did you go?" several people inquired. "We wanted to take a picture with you." It's a strange and delightful feeling, knowing that at least 20 people who had originally foregone sleep on a cold, windy Tuesday night to see actual movie stars choose deliberately to take a photo with you. After we wrapped up, the staff asked me to come back Wednesday night. Obviously, I agreed. However, I'd put myself in a very difficult situation. You see, filming the first night, or should I say morning, ended around 5 a.m., and I had to be at work by 8. To make matters worse, in my mad dash to make it to set, I'd accidentally locked myself out of my car. My mom, the saint of a woman she is, drove downtown at 6 a.m. to give me her spare. I finally made it home at about 7 a.m. and proceeded to sleep in until 10. If you're wondering why I can show up to work 2 hours late, the short answer is I can't. The long answer is I work as a door-to-door salesman for the Maryland Penny Saver. It's a free mail periodical, the kind that most people throw away long before thumbing through their bills. And it's my job to drive to hair salons, consignment shops and Chinese food restaurants to pester small business owners in a desperate and usually fruitless attempt to fill our garbage catalog with coupons, fridge magnets, and delivery menus. When I finally got started, yes, 3 hours late, I totally BS'd my way through work. I have a great work ethic, but even I have to admit, Wednesday I really didn't try. I barely left my parents' house. If I had my way, I probably never would have, but my boss had actually called me and forced me to go visit a new client. In the end, I spent more on gas money that day than I made in sales, but things changed when 4 p.m. rolled around. I tossed back 2 5-hour energies, drove to set, and it felt like I'd barely hit my second wind. It was a night of heavy lifting, shouting over the crowd and swatting away bugs drawn by the huge night lamps. But in the end, I watched cars explode, ate cupcakes with Josh Duhamel, and watched Michael Bay direct, firsthand. I went home that night absolutely elated, but also disappointed. The production was returning to California the next day, so they didn't need me anymore. As I drove home Thursday morning against rush hour traffic with the rising sun shining in my baggy, bloodshot eyes, I contemplated work. After 2 days with practically no sleep, I was beyond exhausted. There was no way I was going to do anything but pass out behind the wheel and kill myself serving hypothetical customers if I went into work today. But I'd already used a sick day of leave the month before, and I was way too tired to pretend to be sick again. I called into the office at 6 a.m., and when no one answered, I lied on voicemail. I left what I hoped would be a convincing enough message, let my phone die, and passed out, face down on the bed. When I finally woke up hours later, my voicemail was flooded with messages. My boss was livid. Because I'd abandoned work, a few Chinese food menus had missed our print deadline. She said I should have asked another sales rep to take care of my duties, and she's right. I think if it was really important, I could have, but I didn't. After my boss finished chewing me out over the phone, I spent the rest of my deceptively earned day off watching Transformers 1 and 2 in my childhood bedroom, trying to relive what was at the time the coolest job I'd ever had. But it was hard. The Transformer franchise as a whole is pretty terrible, but even though that movie sucked, and Transformers 3 will likely suck as well, I knew I was proud of the contribution I'd made to it. And then Friday came. Just like any other day, I went to work, on time, but halfway through the day, I got a call from my boss for an emergency meeting. I'm sorry to say I'd become used to these impromptu lunches. She called an emergency meeting with me at least twice a week, every week, for about a month or two now, but this time was different. I could tell by the tone in her voice. I stalled, said I was going to visit with a client and that I'd meet with her afterwards. In reality, I just sat behind the wheel of my beat-up car, idling in the middle of a strip mall parking lot, contemplating how colossally I'd screwed this up. How could I sacrifice a steady income for a gig that lasted only 2 days? What if my parents kicked me out? How could I be so callous, short-sighted, and irresponsible when I have tons of student loan debt during a recession? Just as I was weighing the benefits of driving off a bridge and saving myself the embarrassment, my friend Tim called. I had texted him the day before about how happy I felt working on set, but he had sorely missed his window to speak to the enthusiastic, optimistic version of me now. I think I was pretty desperate when Tim called, but he calmed me down. "Did you like this job?" he asked. "I mean, did you even want it?" "No," I immediately and emphatically responded. "Then what do you want?" he asked. I paused. What did I want? I honestly never stopped to consider that. Clearly I'd been selfishly, recklessly, irresponsibly pursuing something these past 2 days. But what? I've never wanted to live in a mansion or drive a fancy car. I just want to feel like I can make a meaningful contribution to something that matters. Something that's important, necessary, or at the very least brings people joy. That's it. What I wanted was pride. While I definitely wasn't proud of the work I did at the Maryland Penny Savers, I'm not sure I ever could be. This job just wasn't for me, and perhaps it was just time to move on to other things. After I got off the phone with Tim, I drove to meet my boss, where I was inevitably fired. I hold no bad blood or ill will towards my boss. If I'm being honest, I thought at times she could be really nice. Hell, she was probably more patient with me than I would have been with myself had the roles been reversed. But she was dead wrong about me. She thought I was antisocial when I had no problem laughing and shouting in front of hundreds of absolute strangers. She thought I had poor work ethic when I just opted to work from sunrise to sunset, without sleep, in the cold, twice. She thought I wasn't trustworthy when only hours prior I'd acted professionally and cooperatively during a multi-million-dollar production. She looked at me during our last meeting like I was some aimless, unmotivated, entitled college graduate. But if the Transformers taught me anything, I know I'm more than meets the eye.
Okay, so it looks like I am here. Alright, I'm going to go and find my family so we can spend the weekend together, but I hope you guys enjoyed that story. I'm going to try to do more videos like this because they're a little bit easier to do than the 13-minute long videos, and I want to have more content regularly up on the site. So if you like this, leave a comment, let me know, and have a great day.